This video is to show you how to use Holts Method and create a time series chart in Stat Pro. This is for the Stat Pro version that works on Excel 2016 and also 2010 and the 64-bit version. I'm going to use an example from the Decision Analysis and Decision Making textbook by Albright and Winston, problem 44 from chapter 13. First thing we're going to do is create a time series chart. And let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go open this problem now, and we're going to do this in Stat Pro. And there's a bunch of different ways to create time series charts, but I'm going to show you namely in Stat Pro right now. So I've got the data open. Here it is. Going to do it on the closing prices, Stat Pro, time series, and under time series / forecasting. Time series graphs is what we want. I'm going to go highlight all of the data here. And actually, sorry, one thing before that, before you do this, something to realize here, very important. Notice this data is newest to oldest. First thing you're going to want to do is go select all of it and sort it by oldest to newest. Okay, so very important, if you have time series data, make sure it's going from oldest to newest. So the oldest should be at the top, newest at the bottom. There we go. And now Stat Pro, time series graph. We're going to go highlight all of our data here. And do highlight it all. We want the dates and we want the closing prices. So I'm going to go grab it all. And we want to plot the closing prices. Click OK. We have a date variable, click OK, and it's the date right there, that one, click OK. Beautiful. And there's our graph. So again, there was our original data. We wanted to plot our closing prices, and we also had dates associated with them, and we wanted to make a time series graph. Now, another interesting thing is to, if you click on the data, right click, you can add a trend line. This is nice because then you can see what the data is doing. And I'm going to click off display equation on the chart. I can see what it looks like. And now that we've added this trend line, it's helpful to see there is a slight upward trend. Okay, so our data is trending up according to this graph. So next question here, what do you think is happening? And which model should you use? Well, I see in this model that the data is trending up a little bit, so I'm going to use Holts Method. So based on this graph, data appears to be trending up, so use Holts Method for trend. Sorry. Good. Okay, so back to here, back to our data, and back to the question part B. Use Holt's exponential smoothing. Use the default of 0.1 for our smoothing constants, no holdout, and 20 days future. Beautiful. Okay, one other thing we need to notice here before we start is what type of data we have. This is daily data. Okay, so type is daily. And what we're also going to need to know is the week number that it starts at and the day number of the week it starts at. And how many days per week. So week number, in Excel, you can just type equals week num, put in that date, and it'll return the week number. You're going to see where we're going to put this in a minute. Day number of the week. Let's see here. There is no Excel call. What I use is I just look at this data. Okay, so that sounds a little airy-fairy, but so take a look at your data. Notice where the gaps are. So there's a gap between the 17 and the 20, a gap here between 24 and 27. So you'll notice here there are 5 days of the week recorded, and then a gap. Another 5 days of the week, and then a gap, if that makes sense. So we have Monday to Friday data. So this week here, we must have started on the Wednesday because Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is where we are. So day number of the week would be day number 3. Let's assume Monday's day 1. So Wednesday be day 3, and then 4 for Thursday, 5 for Friday. And how many days of the week? This data set has 5 days in the week, so no weekend days recorded. Okay, now we're finally ready to do Holts Method. So under Stat Pro, Time Series Forecasting, we go down here to Forecasting. Go highlight all of our data, including the titles. Little note, bit of a pain, Control-Shift down doesn't always work to highlight all of the data. So you just have to manually highlight it. Now, type of data we want to feed in is the closing prices. Click OK. And type of data, we have daily data, 5 days per week. Specify our starting week. So week 42, and we're starting on day number 3. That was a Wednesday. And we want to forecast 20 periods ahead because that's what the problem asks for, 20 future days. Beautiful. And click OK. And also, before we click OK, it asks about the holdout period. So they said no holdout period. So click OK. We'll look at a holdout period in the next video. Type of method, exponential, and Holts. Holts is an exponential. And they said use the default of 0.1 and 0.1 and don't optimize for now. Click OK. Click OK. And there we go. Here is our chart. Not bad. Pretty good there. In red are our forecasts, in blue are the actuals. We're fitting that line pretty well, that blue line, with our red forecasted line. And our average absolute percent error is 1.93%. Not bad either. Next part of this question, repeat part B, but optimize the smoothing constants. So this is really easy to do with this version of Stat Pro. So back to our data. We rerun Stat Pro and Forecasting and go highlight all of our data. Click OK. Click OK. Closing prices is what we want to forecast. And again, we have daily data, 5 days per week. Week 42, day number 3. And we want 20 periods ahead still, no holdout. We'll see that again in a future video. I'll show that with the Holt Winters, the holdout period. Exponential smoothing, Holts, and now we want to optimize. You can choose to minimize any of these guys. Okay, let's just minimize the RMSC. Just pick one and go with it. So I'm going to minimize the RMSC. Click OK. Click OK. God. And so notice Stat Pro found a different alpha and beta than 0.1 and 0.1 to get the lowest RMSC possible. That dropped our percentage error down to 0.74%, so from 1.93 to 0.74. That is really good. Our red forecasting line is almost perfectly sitting on our blue observation line. Okay, last part of this question asks, write a short report. And, oh, sorry, we missed a part. Repeat parts A and B, this time using a holdout period of 50 days. So there we go. So let's do that holdout period as well, of 50 days. Okay, what does that mean? That means that it takes 50 of those days and does not use them in the original Holts. So if you take a look, I'm going to move the graph out of the way. When you're doing Holts Method, oh, sorry. When you're doing Holts Method, you go all the way down here, and I can forecast in the future. If you choose a holdout period as well, it doesn't use that data. So basically it takes a whole bunch of this data and pretends that it doesn't exist. And then at the very end, you compare the forecasted value to the actual to see how close you are. So let's go try that, and I'll show you what that looks like. So for this part D, repeat parts A and B, but with a holdout period of 50 days. Okay, so let's repeat part B for starters, which is forecasting without optimizing the alpha beta. Go highlight all of our data yet again, click OK, closing price is what we want, click OK. And we want daily data, Specify starting date. It's week 42, day number 3. We want to forecast 20 periods ahead, and we want a holdout of, let's just be sure here, 50 days. 50. Click OK. Gorgeous. Exponential smoothing, Holts, and use these as the defaults. We're not optimizing yet. Click OK. Good. Okay. Wow. So red line is our forecast line. This is not a good forecast going forward. We're missing that upward trend, interestingly enough. Let's do this again. So we're going to repeat part B, where we, okay, sorry, and they meant repeat parts B and C. So we're going to repeat part C, where we optimize the alpha and beta and use our holdout period as well. Okay, so back to our data, add in Stat Pro forecasting. So what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to do Holts Method. I'm going to have a holdout period of 50 days. I'm going to forecast 20 periods ahead, and I'm going to optimize my smoothing constraints. Again, forecasting closing price, daily data, 5 days a week, starting at week 42, day number 3, holdout 50 days, and forecast 20 into the future. Click OK, exponential smoothing, Holt, and minimize the RMSE. There's my optimization of my smoothing constraints or constants. Click OK. And there we go, a bit better. We're still missing that upward trend. There's our line. Okay, this guy, oh, really bad. This is without optimizing the alpha beta, and here's with optimizing the alpha beta. Okay, and here's without the holdout. Okay, going into the future. And so last part says to write a short report. Well, the clear winner in this case was the second forecast. Okay, so little report, let's call it. Okay, and the report is the following: the best forecasting method was to use Holts method with no holdout period and optimize the alpha and beta. Okay.